One year in my class, in a full-day childcare program, I had a little cluster of kids, 4 kids, who just behaved badly in their friendships. They hurt their friends' feelings a lot. They had their feelings hurt. They were struggling, and their behavior showed their struggle. And I thought, what's going on is that they're in angst about friendship. These are kids who don't really know how to be friends and who long to be friends. So what I mulled over some possibilities for what I might do. I'd certainly already at that juncture tried to do a lot of intervention in their conflicts and do some one-on-one coaching and some sort of behavior management, typical behavior management stuff with the kids. And as I thought more about this angst that I thought was at the root of their struggles, I thought behavior management isn't useful for these kids. It's putting the band-aids on, and it's not helping them move to another place in understanding relationship. So I gathered this little group together, and in our first conversation, I asked about how do people get to be friends, just really as a starting question for my own learning. Then I began to plan a series of invitations for the children to use materials to represent their thinking. The first cycle of exploration, children used little characters, little people figures, and just acted out meeting and then becoming friends. And I was so curious to see what would show up. And it was in the course of that sort of drama play that they did with these extensions of themselves that some of those further questions came forward. Can you be friends with people who are different? Can you be friends with more than one person at a time? These questions kept offering themselves with each round of exploration that we did. We worked with these sort of people figures. We used a range of art media. We had some conversation, but we tried mostly to have that conversation be located around some engagement with material, so it wasn't a lot of talking. I began to see the complexity in children's thinking about friendship, about this abstract idea that is also a deeply intimate, personal, lived experience. I think I would have said at the time that kids couldn't really reflect and articulate their reflections about something as abstract as friendship. And I was totally wrong. They were eloquent in their expression of the meaning of friendship and the content of friendship and the evolution of friendship. The notion that you can be deeply beloved with a friend and deeply angry at the same time. A child at one juncture drew a sketch of 2 friends growling and grinning at the same time as a way to get at that notion that you can be enraged and deeply in love with a person at the same time. Example after example of that depth of thinking and that sort of nuance to the thinking that I'd underestimated children to be able to do. I think I also would have thought at the time that friendship is a sort of instinctive thing for kids. They're kind of like puppies, and they just all, they get to the playground and they all run around and play and they're friends, right? Which was my simplistic understanding of friendship. In fact, they had very complex navigation through the world of relationships, and I came to understand that in much more depth through the course of this study, and in a way that I never would have if I'd stuck with behavior management and trying to give them just skills and coaching about how to talk with each other. Though that certainly is useful, my thinking wouldn't have shifted, and their thinking wouldn't have been as deeply informed by this exchange of ideas. This way of teaching is so enlivening. This way of being curious about children in a way that opens our hearts as well as stimulates our minds. I, for many years, taught with an emphasis on keeping kids safe and as happy as they could be, helping them manage their conflicts, and keeping the life of the classroom moving smoothly. And that was hard work, and some days very satisfying. Every day it was exhausting. And what I didn't know I was missing, that I know now I was missing, was this depth of intellectual engagement and this full-heartedness that I experienced so fully in this experience with the children's exploration of friendship, that there is depths to be plumbed in ourselves and change to be made in ourselves in all the best ways, in the ways that are about continuing to grow and evolve in our own capacities as humans, not just in our skills as teachers, but in how we move through the world. And both what we learn from children, like what I learned about friendship in these conversations with children, and what we learn from how children think, we can be different in the world.